You have seen how we make the cartoons move and talk. Now, like all actors, they must have backgrounds to work in.
This was the first CinemaScope widescreen animated movie.
CinemaScope was a totally new format, and yet here they were using it for very traditional subject matter.
What you see in Lady and the Tramp is a beautifully detailed, real Victorian world.
It's almost like an animated Norman Rockwell painting. It has that detail and this Americana styling to it.
It's a dreamlike landscape, and I think it's something you can only do with a paintbrush and some really, really brilliant artists.
The mid-50s were an interesting time because TV had just come in, which was the new medium that was supposed to kill movies.
A lot of theater owners were wondering, how are we going to compete? Movies are going to go away, and everybody's going to just watch films in their living room. So what's special? And that's when you got things like Cinerama, like big wraparound screens, and you also got CinemaScope, which was a widescreen but could be shown in virtually any theater with a change of a lens.
CinemaScope set up a new set of demands for the backgrounds. They had to be interesting all the way across.
When you look at the backgrounds, they create pools of light and softness where the action's going to play. And that's a discipline, because every artist that I know wants to have their work coming forward.
Of all the Disney background artists, Claude Coates was a master at creating detail without distracting you. You're always looking at the character.
It's hard to describe all the things that go into making a great background artist like Claude was, because you're both the lighting designer, you're the scenic designer, and in some ways you're the cinematographer. And I think Claude was a master at doing all of those things.
I love how haunting this feels. There's just a definite sort of scary mood in this, the way these buildings are angled. It's all a little bit off and not real, but it just adds to a certain mood.
Most animated films, before they even have a script, have an idea that needs to be conceptualized. And there are inspirational sketch artists who do that. And one of the greatest was Mary Blair.
Mary Blair was a fascinating artist because she had her own way of suggesting little vignettes of stage characters.
There are wonderful watercolor paintings by Mary Blair that depict Lady in certain situations that were from the original treatment. These are some early watercolors. Here's Lady out in a snowstorm, being lost. And here she is, being found not by humans, but by dogs, as she's almost frozen to death out here. Well, Mary Blair had left the studio in '53, so the design of a Lady had other people working at it, and one of them was Ivan Earle.
Ivan Earle's best work, best known work, is his design work for Sleeping Beauty, a very, very stylized design for the entire film. But he was also a key contributor on Lady and the Tramp.
Ivan Earle did the sequence of Bella Notte. He painted about 50 little tiny, maybe 1.5 by 2 inch long, little panels of studies of different ideas for that scene.
And you can see his encrusted trees and the shadows and the very limited palette that he uses, very simple shapes that read very well from across the room.
Well, he painted the great background where they're at the top of the hill in the park. Walt said, I want you to paint the town in such a way that staying in town looks great. The town is wonderful. And leaving the town on an adventure looks great.
They put the whole movie at a low angle, so you're seeing it from the dog's point of view.
When you're down that low, It's a very horizontal world. The world is not defined by the sky, it's defined by the floor and the carpet and the lawn and the fire hydrant and all this stuff down there.
Claude Coates was trained in architecture, so I think he was particularly good at giving credibility to the environments.
Dad liked to build models so he could see dimensionally how things were going to translate to what he was doing in 2-dimension in the background.
Well, he told me that the only way that he could really get what it would be like from a dog's view was to move a camera into the model and look up at these tables and everything from a dog's view.
Like this one is from the viewpoint of Lady, looking up, so you see the bottom of everything.
If you look very closely at the models, you can see Jim, Deer, and Darling, and the dogs as cutouts.
Now you would build those models in a computer and you'd fly the camera around. Well, they were doing exactly the same thing.
Lady and the Tramp started out as being full screen, but the popularity of CinemaScope had taken place, and Walt said, hey, we got to make this in CinemaScope. So he had us go back and elongate everything out on either side, and they would paste on this new stuff and then mask it with maybe an overlay of a tree where it was together, you know. So there was tricks going on constantly to do this.
To be able to use that full aperture in a meaningful way, it was quite a trick.
Sometimes in the movie you feel like they've set up certain shots of the film in a very stationary kind of small way, and then they just simply added east and west onto the field, and it seems kind of lonely out there.
They had to put action out there. So when dogs were fighting with each other and they were in close, they spread them apart.
Where typically the camera might move more, in CinemaScope you can just let the camera sit and let the actors, in this case dogs, move around, move back and forth, deliver their dialogue, and just enjoy the scene a little bit more.
Homewreckers, that's what they are.
Look here, Luddy. Who are you to barge in?
The voice of experience, Buster.
One problem that Disney faced was that not all theaters were equipped to project CinemaScope.
It may have been Brother Roy who had the checkbook there in hand. He said, Walt, we're going to have to, it's going to, in a way it's going to cost more money, but you're going to have to do 2 versions.
So he had to produce a separate flat screen version, which again involved the layout men and replanning the action of the film.
So they actually animated 2 versions of it. One for the regular format picture, and one with the extra characters on the side for the widescreen.
You get the urge for a nice, comfortable...
So I think that's why when they say, gee, we saw a different version of Lady and the Tramp, it didn't have that beautiful wide scene of all those houses. What happened to that? Well, it was the regular, smaller version.
We've got a look in Lady and the Tramp that's very unique, very believable, and very realistic, and still at the same time delivers that Disney magic.